I can't believe I'm saying this, but 2025 is almost over, which means it is time for my personal countdown of my favorite album releases of the year. Hello everyone, welcome back to Pretty in Punk. My name is Fiona. I am your host and girly girl guide to the world of punk, rock, and everything in between. And I feel like it was just me sitting here recording my 2024 album release episode. I can't believe we're already back. Like, how has this year flown by so quickly? How are we already here? How is it dark at 4:30 p.m.? I don't know. I got really lucky. I had so many of my favorite bands and bands that I love releasing albums this year. In this episode, I am going to be ranking my top 10 favorite releases of the year. I didn't want to include them all, just my personal top 10. These are the albums that I personally loved the most out of all of them that were released this year. They're not necessarily what I think of as the best album releases of the year, right? They're just the ones that are my top 10 favorites, the ones that I kept coming back to, the ones that have sentimental reasons, and the ones that I just really could not have pictured this year without. We are going to be counting down from 10 all the way to 1, which will be my absolute favorite of the year. Number 10 isn't my least favorite. It's not an album I hate. It's just on my list of favorites. It's not my number one favorite. So that's how this list is going to work. I say we just get into it because this has been a year full of incredible music nonstop, and I can't wait to share with you the ones that really stuck out to me. At number 10, we're starting with an album that totally surprised me, and in all honesty, I didn't know if I was going to include it in this list, but I just kept coming back to it. Spun by Waves. It's a breeze, now the summer is over and we don't talk now. For some context, I wasn't a fan of their last album, Hideaway, so in all honesty, I kind of went into this one with some low expectations, but immediately it proved me wrong. The first two tracks hooked me instantly. The songwriting on this album too, it feels way more mature without losing that like scrappy Waves energy, that like King of the Beach era-esque energy. And in my opinion, I truly believe that Nathan Williams sounds the best that he ever has on this album. I think his vocals are really mature here and really polished, and I think he sounds great, super confident but still raw with that grit that he's always been known for. But in the end, this album lands at number 10 for me because it was a really fun surprise. Again, I wasn't expecting to like this album. I really wasn't. Maybe I should stop going into things so negatively sometimes, but it also ends up at number 10 because it was an album that I listened to a lot in the beginning of the summer, but then I kind of moved on from and I started listening to other releases, so it wasn't something that stuck with me throughout the whole year like the rest of these records, but I really did enjoy it. I was really pleasantly surprised, and it was great to really enjoy a release from Waves again. Top 3 tracks on this one: Body Sane, Machete Bob, and Spun. Moving on to number 9, 6 by Bass Drum of Death. That's not confusing at all with all those numbers in there. This is a band kind of like Waves that I didn't mention this before, but I've been following them since high school. So it's really cool to still be getting releases from these bands 10 years after I first fell in love with them. Right from the opener, Phantom Drip, I was in. That riff really grabbed me. It set the tone for the entire record. Never Gonna Drink About You, which I really like that title. That's another highlight for me. It's upbeat, pit-worthy, catchy. And then we have Like a Knife. This one takes things in slightly a different direction than we're used to, but in a really good way. It's anthemic with these like stadium-ready harmonies and a guitar line that shines through everything. It feels much bigger in a way that they don't always lean into, and it really works, and it was really cool to hear a song like this from Bass Drum of Death. So why is this at number 9? I genuinely really enjoyed this album. Honestly, I can't really think of one Bass Drum of Death album that I hate, but I will say compared to their earlier work, it doesn't hit as much for me. Like those older records are just unbeatable in my mind, but 6 definitely deserves a spot on this list because I really enjoyed it. I really like a lot of these tracks. I haven't really listened to this album back to back without skipping in a while, but I come back to a lot of like the one-off tracks here and there. While it has a place on this list, definitely isn't as high up because to me those older records like just don't compare, you know what I mean? However, it still totally deserves a spot on this list. Top 3 tracks: Phantom Drip, Never Gonna Drink About You, and Like a Knife. At number 8 is something a little bit different. We have Getting Killed by Geese, and this album really took off this year. I feel like so many people have been loving this album, and for me it definitely deserved a spot on this list. They're not like most of the bands I usually gravitate towards, and I think that's why this album hit for me the way that it did, because it felt refreshing in the middle of all of my punk leaning playlists that have really been taking over this year. I think Cameron Winter's voice is such a standout for me. It's so interesting and unique, and I really like his voice a lot. And their sound is just unique. There's a lot of songs on here that are very experimental and different, and it keeps pulling you in with each listen. However, I want to talk about why this album is sitting at number 8 for me. I really did love this album, but I do prefer their 2023 release 3D Country a bit more than this one. Actually, this year I probably was listening to 3D Country more than this release, but it still had to be on this list. I mean, obviously because this one was released in 2025, but you know what I mean. So reason number 1, I definitely come back to 3D Country more. And number 2, obviously my taste definitely leans more towards punk and things of that nature. So it's not always something that I am reaching for on the daily, but when the mood strikes, it hits. My top 3 tracks are Bow Down, Getting Killed, and Islands of Men. Moving on to number 7, I'm Nice Now by Upchuck. I'm Nice Now by Upchuck is a blast of lo-fi, fuzzed out punk that I have been obsessed with ever seeing them open for Teen Mortgage back in May. This band I absolutely adore. They came through Atlanta's skate scene, and the album blends garage punk, fuzzy grunge in this super just raw, high energy way. Like, it's super raw, DIY sounding, and I adore it. It really just is a raw punk album through and through, so if that sounds like your vibe, go check it out. I adore the vocalist KT. Her voice is very emotional and very gritty, like tailor-made for this genre. Her stage presence was so great. Track highlights for me, we have Tired, which is a perfect album opener. Then Plastic is just so infectious. One of those singles that you just can't stop replaying. New Case, however, might be my favorite. I love the harmonies. They were totally unexpected, and this song like threw me for a loop in the best way. I wasn't expecting something like this, but I adore this song. I come back to this one on its own a lot. We also have the drummer, Chris, who takes vocals on a few of the tracks, also singing in Spanish, which is a really cool twist. Overall, this album, I really love it because I discovered this band this year, and then they came out with this album only a few months after discovering them. I got to see them live this year, so it really has a special place in my heart. However, it definitely lands at number 7 because similar to Waves, I definitely had short bursts of a love for this album, but then started to move on from it when other albums started taking over my listening a bit more, but still needed a place on this list, and I was so happy to have discovered this band this year. Top 3 tracks, already mentioned all of them, but New Case, Tired, and Plastic. Number 6, we have Viagra A Boys by Viagra Boys. Got into them last year. Immediately, they stood out to me because I just thought that they were fun and different. What I love most about this band is that they don't take themselves too seriously, and this album is no different. In a music landscape that really is just hyper serious on branding and being super polished. I feel like Viagra Boys are just out here writing songs about satire of wellness culture, preserved body remains in a bog, or croutons for that matter. And that's why I love them. I think Anthony Fantano said it best. He said, they're the most serious, unserious band of our time. And that is exactly why I keep coming back to Viagra Boys. They are chaos, but with a purpose, because one minute you're getting this like synth heavy banger, and then the next minute you're getting these like screamed vocals, the next minute you got a flute solo. I mean, even the lyrics, one minute they're referencing Chandler Bing and hot dog water, the next minute they're talking about Europe in the 1950s. I think why this album isn't high for me is because when this album first dropped, I really liked it, but I really was only coming back to a couple of tracks, but not the whole album. But then back in September, I saw them in Philly, and suddenly I was like, okay, let me listen to this album again. And then I really came to appreciate and love this album. Its oddities, its experimentation, and just how bold they are as a band and not afraid to just take risks. But to me, this album, it's balanced. It's not just all absurdism or weird random references. There are real moments of sincerity and vulnerability. It can pivot from emotional to absolutely absurd or chaotic or funny in a matter of minutes, and somehow that makes the record feel whole. I feel like with this one, my top 3 tracks keep changing, but right now, top 3 tracks, You Need Me, Waterboy, and Bog Body. Time to kick off my top 5. We have Phantom Island by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, the 27th studio album from the band. Yeah, 27. Yet somehow they keep finding ways to surprise us, and that is impressive. This record is so beautiful. It's an orchestral, cinematic blend of psych rock, jazz, prog rock, and even some like 70s rock moments. It's one of their most beautifully arranged albums to date, if not the most beautifully arranged. I saw them perform it live in Philly at the Man with the full orchestra, and that experience, while I already really like this album, that experience just elevated it even more. Let's start with the album opener, Phantom Island, Perfect Start. It sets the tone for the whole record. Honestly, the first 3 tracks, Phantom Island, Dead Stick, Lonely Cosmos, just flawless back to back. Dead Stick is one of my all-time favorites. It leans hard into that rock flair. The whole album feels so cohesive and cinematic, almost like it is tailor-made to be a jukebox musical or a movie adaptation or something. I can just see it in my head. Top 3 tracks are Dead Stick, Phantom Island, and Grow Wings and Fly, which I feel like those 3 are like the most popular from this album, but for good reason, because they're incredible. At my funeral, nobody came, everybody knew my shit was lame. Moving on, at number 4, we have a record that I talked about fairly recently, so I'm going to keep it kind of brief. Rude by Spiritual Cramp. Let me tell you, out of all the albums on this list, this is probably the most fun I had when I was first listening to this record. I keep it on repeat in the car, and if it was not like 30 degrees out right now, I would be rolling down my window and my sunroof blasting this album, because to me it just feels like a record that screams windows down car jam sesh in the summer. I saw them open for Bad Nerves in May, and their set hooked me instantly. It's this mix of like this punk attitude, some reggae thrown in there, and these modern alt-rock moments that really tie it all together. This album also feels built to be played live. It is upbeat, it's danceable, it's fun. It is these like festival-ready choruses. It bounces between punk, alt-rock, this one reggae track in there that I'm totally obsessed with. But it never feels messy. It really is a well thought out album. Now, why Rude is at number 4? It's high up on this list because I loved it from the first listen. I didn't need like 2 or 3 more listens to really have it grab me. It hooked me immediately. You can hear more in my album review. I don't want to go like too into detail. If you've been here before, you're probably like, girl, wrap it up. Enough. It also just fit perfectly into the other albums that I was loving this year. Hint, hint, a few that are about to come up soon. However, it is just shy of top 3 because the next 3 records I just knew they had to be in my top 3, but this one was so close. The other 3 just, you'll see why. However, I love this one, and I'm going to be continuing to listen to this all throughout 2026. Top 3 tracks: At My Funeral, Violence in the Supermarket, and Young Offenders. We have made it to top 3, and these 3 albums, like I said, I kind of knew they were going to be my top 3 coming into the year. Number 3, Something to Consume by Die Spitz. And honestly, if you've been here before, you already knew that this band was going to be on the list. I've talked about them like nonstop this year. This debut, it's ambitious, it's polished, it's versatile, it has it all. What really makes Die Spitz stand out to me, and this album, one of my favorites, is how they let each member shine and how multiple of the members are very talented multi-instrumentalists. I mean, the first 3 tracks alone switch up who plays what instrument and showcases a different vocalist, so you immediately get a sense for the band's range and what they have to offer on this album and as a whole. This record balances so many styles and genres that I love, and they do it so well. I'm trying to keep this brief because, again, I've been talking about this band so much this year. This album had to be in my top 3. Like, before this album was even released, I kind of knew it was going to be high up there. I knew I was going to love this album, and I was not mistaken. This album I've been listening to constantly without skipping. I've been loving it. I really have. It's just shy of top 2 because the next 2 just really hold a special place in my heart, even more than this one. So it had to be in my top 3, but it's just shy of making the top spots, you know. Top 3 tracks though: Riding with My Girls, Voir Dire, and Throw Yourself to the Sword. But it was hard to pick a top 3 on this one, trust me. Coming in at number 2, which is probably no surprise to a lot of you out there, Devil Ultrasonic Dream by Teen Mortgage. This was my most anticipated album release of 2025. Like, if you've been following me for a while, you probably know Teen Mortgage is not only one of my favorite bands of like this era, but one of my favorite bands of all time, probably. I mean, I've seen them 6 times now, 3 of those times being this year alone. So yes, there definitely is a huge sentimental weight to this album being so high up, but even without that, this album still would have made this spot on my list. This record is everything that I love about this band, and also everything that I've been wanting in a modern punk album. We have super catchy riffs, just the right amount of guitar solos. And compared to their earlier work, we have sharper riffs, super catchy choruses, and lyrics that are both insightful but also scream along worthy and get stuck in your head. What I love about this album the most is how relevant it is and how it is just bold and not afraid to say exactly what needs to be said. Its anger, frustration, and energy really reflect the world that we are living in right now, and Teen Mortgage deliver that with precision. They're not afraid to speak up. Like, I mean, they bring that true punk energy to this record. What I love about this band the most is just 2 people. We have James on guitar and vocals, Ed on drums, but it sounds massive. The production makes it sound so full, and it keeps that punk grip while also sounding very polished and clean. And the flow of this record too is just so perfect. Every track just bleeds seamlessly into the next. It feels cohesive and it feels like a complete statement. So for all of these reasons, this album, it was hard to not put it at number 1, but I think you will understand why the top spot is at its top spot in just a few moments away. However, I adore Teen Mortgage. I can't wait to see what is next for them in 2026. Scary to say. And I definitely hope that I get to see them again in 2026. They're probably like, this girl again? Like, really? Girl, you're at too many shows. Pack it up. Top 3 tracks on this one. While I love so many of them, and this was really hard too, we have Ride, Rip, and Disappear. Finally, I can see it. These birds not meant to fly At number 1, I have been hinting at it this entire episode. No surprise here, my number 1 of 2025 is Never Enough by Turnstile. I raved about this one in my album review episode, and it absolutely deserved the top spot. I actually just put the poster up from the film. I think it makes it look fuller back here. I don't know. I also have this shirt on. So if you saw my shirt, you maybe were like, I know what's coming. While this album definitely received critiques from longtime fans and critics alike, which I get. Like, I understood all of the critiques, especially if you are a longtime fan. I definitely understood where they were coming from. I couldn't get enough of this album. No pun intended with this title. I really couldn't. I still, to this day, even though it's months after its release, I still listen to it in full, all the tracks back to back. It had to be at my number 1. I'm sorry. I really loved this album. It was an album release that I was really anticipating this year. And I feel like this one for me really holds a special place in my heart because this is a band that my boyfriend and I have really connected on and really have a mutual love for. Not to get all sentimental. Sorry. We also saw them this year and it was such a fun show. It was a show that we were counting down the days for, and in all honesty, although it received so many critiques, this album made me fall in love with Turnstile all over again. So again, I personally loved it despite the critiques. It's fresh, it's experimental, and it's full of surprises. I mean, one minute you do have a spacey indie track, the next minute you have a harder riff, there's horns, there's a song that's very nu metal inspired, there's a song that's very pop punk-esque, and Brendan's vocals just fit so well into every style, and the band sonically can shift so effortlessly. Never Enough is bold, it's risk-taking, and it's a record that pushes the boundaries of what rock and punk can be. It just blends so many genres and elements that I love, all wrapped up in this perfect bow. Seriously, I think that they just challenge the rules of what rock can be, and they do it with confidence and creativity. The transitions between the tracks are so seamless. Every song flows so well into the next. It makes the whole album feel intentional and thought out. I adore this record. I'm going to look back on this year with fond memories of listening to this record and going to see them live, and I'm going to continue to listen to this record as the years go on. My top 3 tracks are Soul, Dull, and Sunshower. Now, before we wrap up, I want to give a shout out to some of my honorable mentions. These didn't quite make my top 10, but they definitely stood out to me this year. We have Moon Owl Mage's Step on It, Lambrini Girls Who Let the Dogs Out, Hayley Williams' Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party, Pup Who Will Look After the Dogs, Druidess All You Are, and Folk Bitch Trio Now Would Be a Good Time. And there you have it. That is my personal countdown, my top 10 favorite albums of 2025. But now I want to hear from you. Let me know, what were your favorite releases of 2025? You can tell me just your number 1, your top 3, top 5, or your top 10. Whatever you want, just let me know what you have been loving this year. Drop all your favorites in the comments. I can't wait to see what you have been loving this year as well. But there you have it. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you want to be in the know of all things Pretty and Punk, you can follow me at Pretty and Punk Pod on TikTok and Instagram. You can also listen to the podcast on all platforms as well as YouTube, but YouTube really is my personal favorite. But for now, I hope you have a great rest of your 2025, a great holiday season, and I will see you in the next episode.